Spending Easter evening in a hospital waiting area, my shirt drenched in wine and blood trickling from my forehead, was never something I imagined for myself. Yet that's exactly where I found myself, typing 4 deliberate words to my attorney. Phase 1 is complete. But I should start from the beginning. My name is Robert Chen. I'm 63 years old, and it's been 3 years since I stepped away from the accounting firm I built and finally retired. Cancer took Sarah from me 5 years ago. Since that day, I've been on my own in the 3-bedroom house we shared in North Vancouver. It's nothing flashy. We bought it in 1992 for $170,000, never imagining it would one day be worth close to $2 million. The area transformed over time. Young families moved in, tech professionals filled the streets. The kind of neighbors who install Tesla chargers in their garages like it's a basic necessity. My son Daniel is 32 now. He works in pharmaceutical sales and makes a comfortable living. He's married to Brittany, and they have 2 children, Emma and Lucas, 8 and 6. They live in Langley, about an hour away if traffic cooperates. It's a tidy suburban home, pleasant enough, but nothing remarkable. I see my grandkids maybe once a month, sometimes even less than that. Easter Sunday began the way it usually does. Daniel called on Tuesday to double-check that I was hosting dinner. I always do. That's how it's been. Sarah believed holidays should bring everyone under one roof. I spent Saturday in the kitchen, preparing a leg of lamb, roasting vegetables, and baking Sarah's hot cross buns using her handwritten recipe. I even picked up chocolate eggs for the kids. The air filled with rosemary and garlic, and for a moment, it felt like stepping back into a different life. They showed up around 3 in the afternoon. Daniel's Tesla rolled into the driveway, and I watched through the kitchen window as they helped the kids out. Brittany stepped out holding a bottle of wine. Looked pricey. She only brings the expensive stuff when she's after something. Experience taught me that. "Dad!" Daniel walked in first and gave me a brief hug. It felt stiff, rehearsed. "The house looks great." "Thanks, son." "Kids, go give Grandpa a hug." Emma and Lucas rushed toward me without hesitation. At least the children still knew how to be real. The kids couldn't wait to show me their Easter baskets, chattering about the egg hunt at school and who found the most candy. Just the usual grandparent moments. Simple. Warm. For a little while, it felt right. Brittany leaned in and kissed my cheek, her perfume overpowering. "Robert, thank you so much for having us. This wine is from the Okanagan. It's supposed to be exceptional." "You didn't need to bring anything." "Oh, I insist." She placed the bottle on the counter with a small, polished smile, the kind that never quite reaches the eyes. We moved into the living room. I'd already laid out the good china in the dining room ready for dinner, but Daniel said he wanted to talk first. That should have been my first clue. Daniel never wants to talk. He's usually glued to his phone, rambling about sales targets or venting about his manager. But today he was different. Attentive, composed, glancing at Brittany every few seconds like they were about to present a joint pitch. "So, Dad," Daniel began, clearing his throat, "Brittany and I have been discussing your situation." "My situation?" I repeated. "You live here alone, in a house this size. It's a lot for one person." I kept my expression calm. "I handle it just fine. The mortgage has been paid off for years. Upkeep isn't much trouble." "But you're not getting any younger," Brittany cut in. She was sitting forward on the edge of the armchair, hands clasped. "We worry about you. What if you fall? Or there's some kind of medical emergency? What if something happens and no one's around?" "I have my phone. The neighbors look in on me." Daniel shot her another quick glance. There it is, I thought. "We actually have an idea," Daniel said carefully. "Brittany's parents just retired last month. They sold their place in Kamloops. Now they're trying to find something in the lower mainland, but the market is out of control." "That's nice," I replied evenly. "Good for them."
They're wonderful people, Dad. Active, healthy, Daniel said quickly. Brittany's mom was a nurse. Her dad taught high school shop for 30 years. I gave a slow nod and waited.
Brittany leaned forward, eager. We just thought, you've got 2 spare bedrooms sitting empty. What if my parents moved in? They could help out, keep you company. Honestly, it would make things easier for everyone. They'd pay rent, of course. I looked at her. You're suggesting your parents move into my house. It makes so much sense. Her voice lifted slightly, almost too bright. You wouldn't be alone. My mom could cook, help clean, my dad can fix anything. And we'd all be closer as one big family. I turned to Daniel. And you? He didn't hesitate. It's practical, Dad. You'd have built-in support. They'd get a reasonable place in a great area. Everybody benefits. The oven timer chimed, cutting through the tension like a referee's whistle. I should check dinner, I said, standing. In the kitchen, I shut my eyes for 5 seconds. Breathe. Stay steady. This was exactly what Thompson had predicted. We'd been quietly preparing for 6 months. 3 months earlier, my financial advisor had called. Someone had attempted to access my investment accounts. They didn't succeed, but they got far enough to trigger security alerts. Whoever it was had used personal details, my birth date, Sarah's maiden name, even my mother's maiden name. The login attempt traced back to Daniel's IP address. I didn't confront him. I contacted Richard Thompson instead, the estate lawyer who handled Sarah's will. Sharp mind. Before shifting to estate law, he worked in elder law. He recognized the scent immediately. Robert, he'd said over coffee at a Tim Hortons near his office. I see this every week. Adult children grow impatient about inheritance. They start small, testing access, floating housing suggestions. Then it escalates. What's the move? I'd asked. We protect you, and we document everything. Over the next 3 months, we built layers. First, a complete cognitive evaluation with a geriatric specialist. I passed without issue. Formal documentation that I was mentally sound, no dementia, no impairment. Second, we revised my will with airtight language and multiple witnesses. Third, we established a living trust with explicit, structured terms. And fourth, Thompson's idea, we installed discrete cameras in the living room, dining room, and kitchen. If they're planning anything, he'd told me, eventually they'll expose it. And when they do, you'll have evidence. I checked the lamb. Perfect crust. Thermometer dead on. I sliced it carefully, plated the meal, and called everyone to the table. Dinner began smoothly enough. The kids chatted about school. I asked Daniel about work. Brittany praised the food. Polite. Civilized. Then Daniel circled back. So, Dad, about my in-laws, have you given it more thought? I have. I set my fork down gently. I understand you're concerned, but I'm not looking for housemates. I value my privacy. I'm comfortable with my routine. Brittany's smile tightened. Housemates? They're family, Robert. Your family. I've met them twice. But you have all this space, she pressed, her tone sharpening at the edges. 2 empty bedrooms, a private bathroom. What exactly are you doing with all that space? That's my concern, I replied evenly. Daniel leaned in, frustration creeping into his voice. Dad, come on. Be realistic. You're 63 and living alone. What about when you're 70 or 75? At some point, you'll need support. When that time comes, I'll arrange it, I said. I'll hire assistants or move into a retirement community on my terms. Those places are outrageously expensive, Brittany scoffed, letting out a short laugh.
Why waste money on strangers when family could be here? Because it's my money, and it's my home.
Silence settled over the table. Emma's eyes darted between us, uneasy. Lucas stayed absorbed in unwrapping his chocolate egg, blissfully unaware. "Kids," I said softly, "why don't you head into the living room and put something on Netflix?" They didn't argue. They could feel the shift in the air. The moment they were gone, Daniel's polite expression vanished. "This is unbelievable," he muttered. "Why are you being so stubborn? We're offering a solution and you're acting like we asked for a kidney." "That's not stubborn," I said calmly. "That's called a boundary." Brittany shot to her feet. Her cheeks were flushed. Wine or anger, hard to say. "Do you have any idea what our mortgage costs? Childcare? We're barely keeping our heads above water, Robert. And you're sitting here in a $2 million house like some feudal king guarding empty rooms." "I'm not guarding anything. I live here." "Alone," she snapped, voice rising. "Sarah's been gone for 5 years. When are you going to stop clinging to the past and think about someone else for once?" That one landed. I won't pretend it didn't. But I kept my expression steady. Daniel reached for her arm. "Babe, relax." She pulled away. "No, I'm done tiptoeing. My parents are decent people. They helped us with our down payment. They watch the kids whenever we ask. And now they need something. And your father can't spare 2 empty bedrooms?" I said no. "Why?" She leaned across the table, eyes blazing. "Give me one valid reason." "Because I don't want to." Everything happened fast after that. Her hand grabbed her wine glass. Before I could react, she flung its contents straight at my face. Red wine splattered across my forehead, soaked into my shirt, streaked the wall behind me. The glass struck the edge of the table and shattered. A fragment sliced just above my eyebrow. Warmth spread. Then blood. "Brittany!" Daniel shot up from his chair. I rose slowly, pressing my fingers to my forehead. They came away crimson. I met her eyes. She was breathing hard, stunned, as if she couldn't quite grasp what she'd done. Then I looked at Daniel. "I think," I said quietly, "I need to go to the hospital." "Dad, I'm so sorry. She didn't mean—" "Yes, she did," I cut in. "And I require medical attention. I'll drive myself to an emergency. You should gather your things and leave." I stepped into the bathroom, grabbed a towel, and pressed it to the cut. It wasn't deep, but head wounds bleed dramatically. In the mirror, I saw streaks of red mixing with wine. Easter dinner was reduced to a stain. Perfect. When I returned to the dining room, Brittany had started crying. Daniel stood beside her, trying to steady her as if she were the injured one. The kids were still in the living room. Thank God. "Please go," I said again, steady but firm. "Take the children and leave." "Dad, we can talk this through," Daniel started. "There's nothing to discuss. Your wife just assaulted me. I need medical attention. Leave my house." I picked up my keys and walked out without waiting for a response. Got into my car and headed toward Lionsgate Hospital. At a red light, I pulled out my phone and texted Thompson. "Phase 1 complete." He replied almost instantly. "Heading to the hospital. Don't speak to Daniel. Document everything." The ER was busy, Easter always is, but not chaotic. A nurse took one look at the blood running down my temple and moved me through triage quickly. While I sat waiting, Thompson arrived. Early 50s, gray threading through his hair, always in those polished brown leather shoes. He studied the cut and sighed. "Start from the beginning," he said. I walked him through the entire dinner,
every sentence I could recall. He typed notes into his phone as I spoke. "The kids?" he asked.
Still in the living room when I left. I assume Daniel took them home. Good. Leaving was smart. And the cameras? They'll have everything. He nodded once. Then his voice lowered. Robert, do you want to press charges? There it was, the crossroads. We'd talked about this possibility in detail. If it turned physical, we were prepared. Assault charges, protective orders. But once you cross that line, the family doesn't go back to normal. Yes, I said. I'm pressing charges. He gave a single approving nod. I'll contact the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Within the hour, 2 officers arrived, a male constable and a female sergeant. Calm, professional. They photographed the cut above my eyebrow, collected my wine-soaked shirt as evidence, and took my statement carefully. Do you feel safe returning home? The sergeant asked. I do, but I want a restraining order against my daughter-in-law. She nodded. We'll proceed with an assault charge. Assault with a weapon. The glass and its contents qualify. Given your age, there may also be considerations under elder abuse provisions. Elder abuse? You're over 60. She's immediate family. British Columbia law treats that seriously. They left to file the paperwork. A doctor eventually cleaned the wound and sealed it with liquid stitches. Minor cut, no concussion. I was discharged just after 8 that evening. Thompson drove me home. The house sat dark and silent. For a moment, I half expected Daniel to be waiting on the porch, but there was no one. Inside, Thompson gestured toward my office. Let's review the footage. I pulled up the security system. 4 angles: living room, dining room, kitchen, front entry. We watched everything. Brittany's voice rising, her standing abruptly. The wine was thrown, the glass shattering. Daniel's half-hearted attempt to restrain her. My measured exit. Thompson leaned back. This is airtight. Clear video, clear audio. No provocation. You stayed composed and removed yourself. She appears completely unstable. What happens next? The RCMP will investigate. They'll likely speak to Daniel and Brittany tonight or first thing tomorrow. Charges will be laid. She'll have a court date. We'll pursue a peace bond or restraining order. Should be straightforward with this evidence. The house was quiet again, but this time it wasn't just silence. It was the sound of consequences beginning. And Daniel? I asked. Thompson paused. That's more complicated. He didn't assault you, but the larger pattern needs to be addressed. Account access, I said. Exactly. I believe they were laying groundwork for something bigger. This house, your investments. Suggesting her parents move in? That's a textbook. Establish residency. Create dependency. Then argue you're no longer capable of living independently. Push for power of attorney, possibly even guardianship. A cold weight settled in my stomach. You honestly think Daniel would go that far? I think Brittany would, Thompson replied evenly. And I think Daniel is pliable enough to follow. We sat quietly for a moment. What's the next move? I asked. We go on offense. Tomorrow I'll file a formal complaint with your bank and with police regarding the attempted account access. Financial exploitation of a senior is a criminal matter in BC. Then we strengthen your estate plan further, add a no contest clause. If Daniel challenges the will or attempts legal interference, he forfeits everything. And my grandkids? Thompson's expression softened. We establish separate education trusts for them, completely independent of Daniel, managed by a neutral trustee. They receive the funds at 25 regardless of what their parents do. That felt right. The children shouldn't carry the consequences of adult ambition. Thompson left around 10. I remained in the living room, a bandage on my forehead, dried wine stiff against my collar. The pastel eggs and spring flowers scattered around the house suddenly felt absurd, celebrating renewal while something in my own family had just fractured beyond repair. My phone buzzed. Daniel. I let it ring. Another call. Voicemail. Then a text. Dad, please call me. Brittany feels awful. We need to talk. I powered the phone off. Monday morning, the police called. Brittany had been formally charged with assault. She was released under conditions: no contact with me, surrender of her passport, mandatory court appearance. Daniel phoned Thompson's office 16 times. None were returned. On Tuesday, Thompson submitted the financial exploitation complaint. The bank temporarily froze my accounts while they investigated the attempted access. I had to prove it wasn't me. Fortunately, I had been at a dentist appointment at the exact time of the login attempt. Time-stamped records confirmed it. Wednesday, the RCMP interviewed Daniel. Through one of Thompson's contacts, we learned Daniel admitted trying to access my accounts. He claimed he was checking on his father's financial well-being. Said he was worried about cognitive decline. That word again. Thursday, Thompson and I appeared before a judge seeking a restraining order. We presented the footage, the assault charge, the attempted account breach. The order was granted immediately. Brittany was required to remain at least 100 meters away from me and my property. Daniel could technically visit, but only with 48 hours' notice and only during daytime hours. Friday afternoon, the doorbell rang. I checked the security feed. Daniel stood alone on the porch. I opened the door, but didn't step aside. He looked exhausted, unshaven, eyes shadowed. Dad, please, can we talk? You're aware the 48-hour notice requirement hasn't passed. I'm your son. And I have a court order against your wife for assault. The conditions are explicit. She's sorry, he said quickly. She was overwhelmed. She'd been drinking. She didn't mean... She meant it, I said quietly. And you stood there while it happened. He flinched. I tried to stop her. Not hard enough. I held his gaze. Daniel, do you even understand what the two of you were doing? We were trying to protect you. You attempted to access my bank accounts without permission. You tried to position your in-laws inside my home. You called me selfish for wanting privacy under my own roof. That isn't protection. That's control. His jaw tightened. You're being paranoid. I took out my phone and pulled up the report. The cognitive assessment. Recent date. Perfect scores. Every category. I'm not paranoid, I said calmly. I'm fully competent, and I'm finished being manipulated. His expression collapsed. What does that even mean? It means my will has been updated. You're still included, but only if you respect my boundaries. If you attempt to challenge it, question my competency, or interfere with my finances, you forfeit everything. He stared at me. There's a separate education trust for Emma and Lucas. They'll be taken care of. But you and Brittany will have to build your own stability. You'd really cut me out? You pushed me aside first, over 2 empty bedrooms. His mouth opened, closed, searching for something to say. Finally, the truth slipped out. Brittany's parents lost a rental deposit because of all this. We were counting on moving in here. There it is, I said quietly. You were counting on living here. He didn't deny it. Leave my property, Daniel. Dad. 48 hours written notice through Thompson's office. That's the condition. Ignore it, and I will involve the police. I shut the door. Through the front window, I watched him stand there for a full 3 minutes before walking back to his Tesla and driving away.
That was 6 months ago. Brittany's case went before a judge. She pleaded guilty and received a conditional discharge, probation, mandatory anger management counseling. The elder abuse factor was acknowledged, though not charged separately. Her lawyer framed it as stress, a single lapse in judgment. The judge accepted the plea, but not without warning her. 2 years of probation. The financial investigation took longer. In the end, the RCMP classified Daniel's actions as attempted fraud but chose not to prosecute, given that no funds were actually accessed. The bank permanently flagged his credentials on my accounts. He will never get near them again.
Over those 6 months, Daniel mailed me 5 letters. Apologies, explanations, detailed accounts of their financial strain, sales numbers slipping. Childcare costs are overwhelming. Brittany's maternity leave ending. Her parents genuinely intend to help. On paper, it all sounded reasonable, but I remembered the word cognitive. I remembered the login attempt. I remembered the entitlement in his voice. I didn't answer any of them. Last week, I booked a trip to Scotland. 3 weeks. Edinburgh, the Highlands, the Isle of Skye. Sarah always dreamed of going. We ran out of time before illness took over. I'll go alone, and I'm at peace with that. The house doesn't feel empty anymore. It feels calm. I joined a book club at the community center. I started watercolor classes. I've had coffee a few times with a widow named Patricia, who has a sharp wit and an easy laugh. My financial advisor says my portfolio is strong. The house continues to appreciate. I am comfortable, secure, safe. Last week, a drawing arrived in my mailbox. No return address, but I recognized the careful handwriting. Emma. Inside was a picture in crayon. Me, her, and Lucas at the park. 3 stick figures holding hands. Little red hearts floating above our heads. I miss you, Grandpa. I cried for an hour. But I didn't call Daniel. Because that's what he wants. He wants the grandchildren to be the wedge, the leverage. And I refuse to let innocent kids become bargaining chips in an adult power game. Thompson says when Emma turns 18, she'll be free to reach out on her own. Maybe we'll sit down for coffee. Maybe I'll tell her everything. Maybe she'll understand. Maybe she won't. That's 10 years from now. I'm 63. I could have 30 more years. I could have 3. But however many mornings I have left, I'm going to wake up in my own house, under my own roof, with my boundaries respected. Sometimes family means people who love you without conditions. Sometimes it means people who only love you if you comply. For most of my life, I chose everyone else. This time, I chose myself. And you know what? I sleep just fine. The house is quiet, the doors are locked, the cameras are on. And every morning, I open my eyes in my own bed, in my own home, living life on my own terms. That isn't selfish. That's survival. If you're facing pressure from adult children who believe they're entitled to your house, your savings, or your decisions, protect yourself. Document everything. Hire a good lawyer. Have uncomfortable conversations. Draw the line and stand by it. And don't apologize for guarding your peace, even from your own blood. Especially from your own blood. Because at the end of the day, your peace is not a debt you owe anyone. If this story spoke to you, consider subscribing to A Father's Wrath and turning on the notification bell. We share powerful, real-life stories every week about family conflict, boundaries, betrayal, and the strength it takes to stand your ground. If you've had to choose your own peace over pressure, share your experience in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear tonight. Thank you for listening. Stay strong, protect your peace, and never feel guilty for surviving.